History can be defined as a continuous chronological record of important or public events, or of a particular trend. Considering this definition, it would be fair to assume that we can include comic books when referring to our history. A comic strip can be described as a sequence of drawings in boxes that tell an amusing story, typically printed in newspaper or a comic book. But there's so much more to a comic book than just pictures and an amusing storyline. Get ready as we dive into the exciting and the unique history of comic books. It began as a humorous form of satire, then became a trend through newsprint throughout the United States in the 1930s. From there, it took off. Superheroes were born, and comic strips evolved from just tales of humor to many different genres. Genres that include crime, horror, action, and comedy. The early ages of the comic book era are referred to as the Golden Age. The Golden Age consists of any comics that were published between the 1930s through the early 1950s. These rare pieces are viewed as the crux of any true comic fan's collection. Issues from this time frame had the potential value of $450,000. The most valuable comics include mint condition issues of the first ever publication of both Batman and Superman.
My name's Jay Pillarella, co-owner of Rubber Chicken Comics.
My name is Kevin Cordo, and I am a huge Marvel comic fan. I got into comic books at a very young age, thanks to my brother. He used to read them, he had a bunch of them, and whenever he wasn't reading them, I used to read them.
Probably when I was around 6, 7 years old, my dad used to take me down to Bop City Comics. It is now called Bedrock Comics, but back then they used to be in Framingham, Mass. And once a month we'd go down there, and he'd bring us down, and we'd get to pick out like $10 worth of comics, which back then was like a ton of comics because all the comics were worth 75 cents each kind of thing. A superhero, you'd have to say, is dressed up in a suit, a mask, protecting his identity, always on the run from be it the law or the villains. Whereas a hero can be anyone every day, someone that just helps out with someone else, someone that does something good for better mankind. As simple as that.
5 ages of comic book history include the Platinum Age, the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and the Modern Age. DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and Dark Horse are 3 of the main comic book publishers. Which ones do you carry?
I carry all of them. Marvel, DC Comics, Dark Horse Comics, Image Comics. There's always new ones popping up, such as like Boom Comics, which actually have all the Disney trades that they can actually do right now. There's IDW, which carries mostly horror comics. There is Zenescope, which actually focuses on like grim fairy tales. Pretty much, if it's out there and it's in the public eye, I carry it.
The first successful and longest running comic book superhero has been Superman. The most successful comic heroes include Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, Captain America, and Captain Marvel.
See, that it all changes. It changes practically month to month. But like at this time, right now, Batman is the biggest selling. Not too long ago, well, about a year ago, they actually killed him off in a series called Infinite Crisis. So after that, he had to actually make his way back through time because he didn't actually die. So many people don't actually die. But he made his way back through time to actually get back into comics. And he just came back probably about a month or so ago. So now he's like the biggest thing going on because he's back.
Throughout the years, the comic book industry has had its fair share of rises and falls.
I mean, honestly, it's been a huge rise and fall throughout the years. When we first opened back in the 90s, back in 1990, it was slow and steady. During the 80s, comics have always been popular. And when they got into the 90s, though, they steadily went up and up and up. And it got crazy. By like 94, 95, it was the most produced comics ever. Ever, in the millions. Comic artists and writers were getting rich. Big time rich. Rich to the point like Todd McFarlane would buy baseballs for $5 million, stuff like that. So during then they were huge, but as the '90s actually came to an end, the whole comic industry kind of collapsed in on itself, and by like '99, they all but thought that comics were dead, done, until a little movie called X-Men actually came out, and people started saying, hey, you know, comics and movies, that's pretty cool, and then Spider-Man hit, and everything took off again.
I think it's awesome. I think it's something to look forward to in the next couple of years. You have next year you have Avengers coming out. You have the third Batman coming out. You have Green Lantern coming out this summer. So you have the Thor and Captain America. I can't wait to see. So it's actually really, really cool.
Now that you're excited about all the upcoming comic book movies, I'm sure you're wondering where you can get your hands on the books that influence these future films. Well, you can go to Newberry Comics, your local comic book shop, antique stores, and even pawn shops to pick up issues.
I would honestly recommend them to anyone. Anyone that likes reading, anyone that likes sci-fi, horror, comedy, I mean, anyone out there. The best bet is actually getting kids to read comics. It's fantastic because, you get kids that maybe they like to read, give them comics, they'll have a blast doing it. Maybe they don't like to read. You start reading comics, they're going to want to know what's going on and want to know what happens next. They're going to want to learn how to actually read. Not to mention that they're reading about their favorite people. They're not reading about, stuff in school, which is great and, and interesting, but at the same time, they're going to be reading about superheroes and villains and, heroes, and that's what's actually going to capture someone's imagination and excitement and want them to actually read more.
So you're new to comic books, but you're unsure if you want to risk investing money into a hobby such as this. Or maybe you're a lifelong fan looking to branch out onto different genres. Well, I have news for you.
Each year, about the main thing that I'm excited about is Free Comic Book Day, when all the publishers actually get together and sell me comics extremely cheap, so that one day a year I actually give away anywhere from 40 to 80 different comic book titles for free, so that everyone can come down here, bring a friend, bring family, bring anyone, and get free comics. It excites me because you get so many new people that would never even dream of picking up a comic just to come down, because when you say free, people want to come down and check out what you got.
Congratulations, you future comic book nerd, you! Now that you're proficient in the history that is comic books, go out there and begin your collection. Don't forget to stop by Rubber Chicken Comics in Bellingham, Mass. for all your comic book needs. Thanks for tuning in. For Wicked Legit Pictures, this is Justin Hebert wishing you the best comic book experience.
That's what I look forward to the most. Other than that, I look forward to all the new movies coming out. You got Thor, you got Captain America, you got Avengers, you got Green Lantern. The list goes on and on.
Actually, also, they're going to reboot the Fantastic Four franchise, so I'm looking forward to that.